Ruben, I think, is on. I don't know if he's visible here, but I think he's here too.
Yep.
So you can use us for whatever you need us to be. Oh, there he is.
Ruben, thanks for joining us this morning. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving too.
Yes, I did.
All right, I just got to ask everyone.
What a great way to start the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I know I got up early and had to do a workout this morning just to eat off some calories, although, but all right. Well, why don't we just go ahead and get started? Let me,
go ahead. Jump right in.
Right here. So, well, thank you guys for joining us this morning. We're going to be going through the Double Goal Coach Workshop, and I'm so excited. My name is Matt Dietrich. I've been coaching here for 6 years now in youth basketball, but I'm excited to see that we have coaches from all different areas of sport. So we're going to make sure that everyone feels included. This won't be just basketball focused, but real quick, since I have you here, I want to make sure everyone gets credit for signing in on this course, okay? So we do have a text to sign in. So everyone, you can go ahead and text the number 650-763-2405. Go ahead and click the number here. You're going to put, to get credit for this workshop, it's a hashtag or # no matter what, and it's going to be 12367. On the next line below, go ahead and put your first name, last name, and then the line below that, put your email address. So let me just double check, make sure we have everyone in here. Looks like we got 3 of us and 3 are here. Perfect. All right, so let's get it started, you guys. Double goal coaching, okay? Really, what we want to teach and what we want our athletes to feel is that they are being taught to win, right? We want them to win, and we want them to have success. We also want to teach life lessons along the way. Sport's a great vehicle for us to teach our life lessons. So real quick, why don't we talk about who is PCA? Okay, let me get here. So PCA, real quick, we have so many different stats here. You can see the stat, but really what I want to talk about, not only is do we have over 80,000 coaches trained, and we have 2,500 live workshops, but the 3.3 million youth athletes reached. Can anyone guess how many youth athletes there are in the United States at any time? Throw out a number here. 10 million, yeah, nice. Well, I can tell you that number's a little bit low there, Kelly. There's actually about 40 million youth reached, right? And so the fact that we're able to get 3.3 million youth is a big accomplishment, but we see that as an opportunity to reach more athletes. And I believe our goal by 2020 would be to reach 20 million youth athletes. So we got a long way to go, but hopefully, thankfully with you guys here today, we can help accomplish that goal. So real quick, positive coaching, and I'm going to throw this up on here so you guys can all see, what does positive coaching mean to everyone here? I'd love to take a couple examples if you guys want to shout it out.
Being a good role model.
Being a good role model, absolutely. You want to, little eyes are watching you at all times. So you want to be a good role model. Anything else?
Having fun.
I think it's a coach that's having fun and caring about the kids.
Having fun, caring about the kids, right? Really, what we strive to teach our coaches is that positive coaching will create the atmosphere to make sure our youth athletes perform at their highest level. All right, it's not all warm and fuzzy. We want our athletes to win, and we want them to operate at a high level. So with the double goal coaching, teaching life lessons and winning at the sport, it's very important to us that everyone understands that. Now, Barbara Fredrickson, and watch out, you guys, during this workshop, we're going to throw a lot of research at you. So I want everyone to be aware that the studies show that this stuff works, okay? So real quick, Barbara Fredrickson, she's a psychology professor. She has a quote here. And if anyone has it right there and they could read that first part of the quote, that would be fantastic. Anyone?
I would love to. It says, there's a perception that the best way to get what you want out of employees or players is by negativity or threats, but negativity doesn't work as well as positivity.
Yeah, absolutely. Can anyone now just in case, we all have day jobs, right? Anyone have a boss that they can remember coming down on them, or, maybe there was something that went wrong? Can everyone have an example of that in their head? Everyone could see their boss coming in with their cup of coffee that morning. But how many of us have ever experienced that, by show of hands? Boss coming in, yeah, absolutely, saying, hey, you didn't get that report into me on time, or it was missing a page or something like that, right? We all remember that. That negativity can stick out. But that second part of the quote on there, positive emotions are especially contagious, and a leader's positive emotions are more contagious than everyone else, right? It is so important that us as leaders need to model positivity, because that's going to infect the rest of our team, if you will. And even in Sports Illustrated, another one has shown that the benefits of positive coaching far outweigh any negativity that a coach can bring. And so I want to make sure that we as coaches understand that, and that we see that many other elite coaches agree, right? We have many different coaches on our staff. If everyone could see here, we have plenty of different coaches on our staff, right, from all different areas of sport that agree. Anyone know who Steve Kerr is, right?
No.
The Golden State Warriors head coach, arguably the best team in NBA right now. He has his athletes operating at a high level, and he truly believes that positive coaching is the way to get his athletes to perform at their highest level. Now, again, and just to kind of round out, negativity doesn't work, right? We find that the negativity distracts our athletes from their task, right? If all they can remember is coach said that, I didn't do this right, how are they ever going to move on to the most important play, which is the next play, right? So we need to make sure that while there are times for us to correct our players, we need to have an atmosphere that promotes positivity, not only from the coaches, but also the team and players as well. So really quick question. Do you guys agree? Does everyone find that that positivity works?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyone, I mean, does anyone have an example of where you being negative on a player actually worked? I'm not seeing a whole lot of hands go up right now. So, all right.
I think in the moment it works. If you need to get their attention and you just yell at a player, I mean, it stops you in your tracks. So I think kind of in the moment, negativity sort of works pretty well.
Kelly, I would agree with you there. And sometimes it does work. But there's one thing that you said right there, stops them in their tracks. We don't ever want an athlete to stop. We want them to always move on and get to the next play, because that's obviously is going to be the most important play. But real quick, you did bring up a nice, not a nice, but you did bring up an example there. There are moments where negativity is there, right? Why do we think so much negativity is in sports? Does anyone have an example?
I just watched a bunch of college and pro football this weekend, and I saw some angry coaches, just faces like just venom coming out of their eyes and ears. And I think that, they have pressure to win, the frustration, they work hard. And when things don't go right, I think things don't go the way we want. We get frustrated and sometimes angry.
Well, Ruben, I think prime example right there, right? College football, big time on TV. That is big sport. Right? There's at that level, there is a very high pressure to win, right? These coaches get paid millions of dollars. It's always in the news, right? How much they get paid. And, this booster is bringing that in. It's very much in the media. And we know that. And so that's why it can be. Any other examples of why there's so much negativity in sports from the rest of you?
I think I've actually questioned some coaches sometimes as to, why do you yell at them so much? And I actually had a coach say to me, because that's what my coach did for me, and I turned out to be a really top athlete. I think these kids need to have a wake up call. Life is, it's too easy. You can't be too easy on them. You got to give them tough love. That's how they learn.
Well, I
just they don't know any better.
Experience that playing at a high level of basketball in college. Sometimes there is that tough love. But I think one thing that really helps the point of a tough love, a teachable moment, if you will, come through is when that athlete actually feels connected with that coach. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. That's when the negative aspect really comes through in the coach. But really, there are a couple reasons why I think there's so much negativity in sports. sports, right? We have a win-at-all culture, a win-at-all-cost culture in the U.S. where if you're not winning on the scoreboard, you're not winning in life, right? And I think as positive coach and me as a double goal coach, I can't think that it's further from that, right? Through life with Positive Coaching Alliance and how we want our coaches to teach, there has to be both sides of the coin. You have a life lesson that you need to get through, but you also want to make sure that our athletes perform at a high level and win, and they can do that through this. Also, I think there's a lack of training out there, right? How many of you guys have attended a double goal coaching workshop before? No, none of you. That's surprising, but sometimes that just goes to prove the point right there that as you guys as youth coaches have never been trained on positive coaching before. So I think that's a real reason why there is a lot of negativity in youth sports. Real quick to wrap up this intro here and get it started towards the next our first principle there. Our vision, the PCA vision, is we want to have better athletes and better people, right? We have shown you guys 3 slides where the research proves that, and we have coaches at a high level operating across different sports mediums that agree with this, right? And so that's the main thing that I want to make sure you guys take away is that it's not just everyone gets a trophy, right? We want to have competitors and we want to make sure that they perform at a high level. Now, having you guys here at this workshop, all right, we're going to give you those tools to let our athletes operate at a high level and to really be successful, okay? One of those is the Power of Double Goal Coaching resource. And if everyone can show me their book here, we got it. All right, everyone throw that up there. I might be referring to this book here a couple times. Yep, Ruben, awesome. Al, nice. Yep, nice. All right, perfect. So feel free to beat this thing up. You guys, you'll see it's earmarked with me and everything. So put that in the coaching bag. Take that to practice with you guys. It's really an invaluable tool. We're also, since you guys have signed up, we're going to send you some talking points every week. And then you also have access to the PCA Dev Zone. Lots of good information there. And let's say you walk away from a practice and maybe you had a tough situation with a player and you weren't sure how to handle it. You can use that Dev Zone as a sounding board to put your situation on there, and hundreds, if not thousands, of coaches are going to be able to see that. So really good source for your tools, a really good resource for you to use, I should say. So real quick, let's move on. Making a great experience for youth sports and for kids in our communities, right? Anyone have a quick answer with that? I want you to give yourself about 10 seconds. What makes a great youth sports experience for kids?
Excitement, lots of exciting,
on to this
fun
next slide here. Fun competitions? All right, yeah, absolutely.
Exciting competition, close games.
Okay, absolutely. Oh, I love that, right? I was just at the PK 80 tournament this past weekend here in Portland, and all of my kids that I had watching that game, when it was a blowout, they were all on their cell phones. But as soon as that, it was actually the Texas Gonzaga game got close at the end, they were all paying attention. So absolutely. Anyone else have an idea what makes a good youth sports experience?
I coach mostly girls, and I think for girls, it's all about the friendships. If they've got friends on the team and they feel like the girls on the team really like them and care about them, then they're going to have a good year.
Absolutely. Right. And that kind of alludes to what I spoke about before, feeling connected. Last one, Al, you want to throw out an example there?
Yeah, I think it's not just the kids being connected with each other, but connected with a coach.
Absolutely. So creating that meaningful athlete experience, which you guys hit right there. Number one, feeling connected to the teammates and coach. All right. We're going to give you a tool to make sure that they feel connected. Right. Second bullet point I really want to make sure everyone is aware of is believing that they can improve. Right. If they feel that they've reached a ceiling and they can't bust through that ceiling, where's the drive going to come to show up to practice every day and work hard? right? Finally, feeling proud about acting with integrity, right? We're going to teach we're going to teach honoring the game here a little bit later in this workshop, and that'll make sure that athletes can feel like they are acting with integrity at all times on the court, no matter what. Right now, if these players have three things, what do you guys think might happen? Anyone want to shout out? If they feel connected, if they feel it can improve and act with integrity,
I think they're going to play really well.
boom, ding, 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 Golden State Warriors. They're going to play well at a high level, and they are going to, well, in that example, they won some NBA championships, but maybe for you, they will be able to win a youth league championship. Maybe, go through the season and win that last game, and they could have lost all the games before, and they finally win that last game. That could be a successful season. And really, here are some of the tools that you can use to make sure that they're feeling connected. One, we're going to talk about the emotional tank. All right, every athlete has an emotional tank that when it's full, they're going to feel connected to their teammates and coach. All right, number two, when they feel like they can always improve, right, a tool to help them learn that is the elm tree of mastery. Okay, if with them, they're going to focus on effort is most important and learning. Okay, and then finally, mistakes are going to happen. So mistakes are okay. You got to move on to the next play. And finally, with acting with integrity, we're going to teach honoring the game, which I feel very strongly about. No matter what, we're going to learn an acronym that's called ROOTS, and that covers the rules, the opponents, the officials, our teammates, and ourselves. They're going to learn how to honor the game through that. So real quick, Herm Edwards is going to talk to you guys about understanding your legacy as a coach. And I want you guys to pay attention and hear a couple, if anything, pick out a few words or maybe a phrase or anything that he says here. Click.
All right, we can click through it. Yep.
Playing. All right, great. Let's get on to the next one here. So real quick, he starts off with, when the book of your life is written, and he goes to say, what will it say that you made a difference? Right? Real quick, I want you to turn to your to a partner next to you or the person sitting next to you. I want you to talk about what you want your legacy to be. And then really quick, I'm going to ask anyone what your partner said. So let me give you 20 minutes or 20 seconds. Sorry, not 20 minutes. This isn't going to be a long one. 20 seconds to partner up. Tell your partner what you want your legacy to be, and then I'll call on everyone. So,
all right.
We'll go through that. Yep. Talking. I'm looking at my next slide here. What's coming up? All right, we're together. Real quick, anyone want to give me an example of what they felt their legacy or what their partner's legacy was?
Well, Matt, quite honestly,
that he would like his legacy to be that the kids really know that he cares about them.
Okay. All right, great. And Kelly, what do you want your legacy to be, if you don't mind me asking?
Say that again.
What would you like your legacy to be? Your partners. What about your legacy as well?
I want my legacy to be that the kids know and they can tell every day that they've gotten better. I just want the kids to really feel that sense of confidence that they've tried something new and they've accomplished it and really improved.
Wonderful. Anyone else? One more example? Ruben, I know you were starting there.
Well, what I started to say is, this is my first year coaching, and I'm not really thinking about my legacy. I just want to make it through the season and have these kids all still be on the team at the end of the season and not have parents, breathing down my neck. I'm just, trying to survive and have a reasonably positive experience with these kids.
Well, Ruben, thank you for sharing that. And being a first-year coach, first off, let me say thank you for being able to coach, all right, and wanting to coach here. And just
my wife made me do it.
Your wife? Well, thank your wife, too, because she's probably an awesome lady as well. And that's okay. That's okay if it's a first-year coach and you're not exactly sure. What I'd like for you to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this workshop, maybe get one or two bullet points that you want to be remembered for. And then I want you to go ahead and open back up this Double Go coaching book, all right? And if you don't have a pen right now, that's okay. But I want you to go ahead and write it in there. Right? Write it in there. What do you want your legacy to be? And that way, every time you open this up, you can kind of remind yourself and make sure you get back to what you really want to do right there. Because as Double Go coaches, and moving on here in the presentation, coaches, we, again, strive to win, right? We are competitors. There's a lot of PCA trainers out there that I know. Jeff Peralt, one of them, that works up here in the Portland area, is a very competitive guy. He gets after it, right? But he is also a double goal coach, and so he can also teach life lessons through the vehicle of his sport, which is basketball, right? We want to make sure that our athletes understand that this is what we are teaching them, so that they know what to expect. Right? If we share some of these tools that I'll share with you later in the presentation with our athletes, it's only going to give them ammunition to be successful in whatever sport you're playing, whether it's basketball, football, field hockey, golf, right? Even an individual sport can benefit from some of these tools. All right. And really they need to understand that they can accomplish both goals, one and the same, right? Don't just go for winning, or don't just go for life lessons, or else you're never going to be able to put the two together. All right. Make sure that they can do both at the same time. So again, the 3 principles that we are going to talk about, all right, is filling the emotional tank. All right. That's going to help our kids get connected. All right. The elm tree of mastery, that's going to allow our kids to continuously improve over time. All right. And realize that mistakes are okay, and mistakes are going to happen, and that they can overcome that. And then lastly, honoring the game, making sure all of our athletes, coaches, and even parents, right? We all want to act with integrity. And so that's really going to help our kids moving forward through the season. So we're going to get right into our first principle, Tank. Now, real quick, can I have someone raise your hand, please? I have a quote here from the brilliant Maya Angelou. Love if someone could read that.
Kelly will read it.
Sure, I'll read it.
Wonderful.
I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kelly. Can anyone go ahead, take 5 seconds. Let's remember your favorite coach, okay? And then I'm going to ask you to remember maybe a coach that you had a negative experience as well. Now, real quick, by a show of hands, who can remember exactly what that negative, the negative coach that you had an experience with, what was it that made it so negative? Anyone? Well,
you want us to share, or you just remember?
No, I was asking you guys to share. No, but that's okay. I can give you an example with one. I had a coach growing up, and for me it was even more intimidating because I was a bigger kid. I always kind of played up. Say if I was a 5th grader, I was playing with the 6th graders, and I had a coach who was always very intense. Right? He would point a lot, and he'd point right at you, and he'd look you in the eye, very intimidating. I mean, I can remember him like it was yesterday, and so. I just wanted to make sure that everyone can understand that a negative coach can really impact a youth player long after their youth sports career is over. I'm almost 30 years old, and I can remember his face. And if I saw him walking down the street, I might go to the other side of the street. But my favorite coach, I have a lot of them, and thankfully I have that experience to draw on, right? If there is one thing that I can take away, it's that I know that my college coaches, my high school coaches that I had a great experience with, they're always going to stick with me. So anyone else, go ahead, raise your hand if you ever had a negative coach that you would walk on the other side of the street from. Yep, we've all been there, right? Now, can anyone give me an example of their favorite coach, and what was it about that favorite coach that really made you enjoy him or her?
Well, for me,
I had a lot of great coaches. Go ahead. Tell us all about Sal, Ruben.
Ruben?
Actually, yeah. For me, it was what Maya Angelou said. I remember how that coach made me feel. You know, what they did for my self-esteem and making me feel like I belonged, even though I was the shortest, slowest, couldn't jump. You know, still made me feel like I belonged as part of that group and team.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kelly, did you want to add anything there that was different maybe than what Ruben said?
Yeah, I was just going to, along those same lines, I had a college field hockey coach who just you never felt like if you made a mistake that she would hold it against you. She would always be like, it was like she was rooting for us. So if we missed a ball or missed a shot or did something, you know, we were always down on ourselves, and she would throw us right back in the game. Like, come out, get a drink of water, go right back in, get that again, do it again, do it again. So I always felt like we were harder on ourselves sometimes than she was. And that just made us so fired up and ready to go out and try new things, which was very cool.
Yeah, a great example right there, I'd say, as an athlete walking off the field or the court of competition, right? It's you, that coach right at that moment made you feel like you were on their team and they were on your team as well. That's a great example. Well, again, talking about how they made them feel, we're going to talk about an athlete's emotional tank. Now, a tank is like a car, right? How many of you think that you could drive across country on a tank that's full? Yep.
All the way across the country?
Well, let me rephrase that there, Ruben. You'd want to drive across the country in on a tank that's full, right? That you would, if it's a full tank, you'd feel up for the challenge of driving across the country. Obviously, we know that we'd need to stop and refill that, but we could not ever allow it to get to empty. How many of us feel that we could move when the tank is on empty? No, absolutely not. You don't feel confident getting across the country, right? You're in California, you got to get to New York, and you're in an empty tank. You're not going to be leaving LA, that's for sure, or San Francisco, wherever you are in California. But really, we show that athletes with an empty tank, they're going to be pessimistic, right? They're going to give up more easily. They're going to be less coachable. And real quick, I want to make sure that everyone gets an example of that. So real quick, let's go ahead and everyone stand up. I'd like to get you with a partner here. With your partner, I want you to go ahead.
Look at Ruben going.
I have this out. And why don't I go ahead and be the example, since we're not going to be partners here. But I am going to try and juggle. All right? Real quick, I am going to act like an athlete with an empty tank. And I'm going to try and juggle here. So here we go. I got the balls. Oh, man, what am I going to do here? I'm going to try and juggle. Oh, geez. Oh, shoot. Man. Oh, okay, I better. What am I going to do? I don't even want to try again. Can anyone tell me one thing they noticed about me, either what I was saying to myself or what I was doing as an athlete with an empty?
You gave up pretty quickly.
Gave up quickly, right? I threw those tennis balls down and I didn't want to go get them again. Okay. Anyone else?
Your self-talk was negative.
Self-talk, right? I just had it in my head. I couldn't do it. Okay. Anything else? Maybe what I expressed non-verbally or something that I did non-verbally.
You had your head down. You were like shaking your head.
Head down. Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all agree that athletes with an empty emotional tank, they're not going to get so far in whatever it is the task. Now, I'm going to try and represent an athlete with a full tank. Again, this is where my coach has built me up and made sure that I was on his side, feeling connected. All right, I'm still going to try and juggle again. And trust me, I can't juggle, you guys. So here we go. I'm still going to try and juggle again. Here we go. Let me start with this first ball here. Oh, let me get it going. That's all right. I'll get back to that ball that I just lost here. Here we go. I'm going to try it again. Maybe I'll try with the other hand this time. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Got to let that other ball go. I know I got to let that other ball go. Here we go. Oh, geez. That's all right, man. I'm going to get it going. Okay, all right. End of scenario. As an athlete with a full tank, what was I doing there? Anything that maybe you noticed that I was trying to do as accomplishing that task of juggling?
Kept trying.
I was trying.
The talk was positive.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sounded like you're convincing yourself that you could do it.
You were laughing. You were
myself,
having fun.
I was having fun. All right. Yeah. One time I was even like, maybe there's a different way for me to try it. Okay. That's an athlete with a full tank, right? I know that my coach, right, my juggling coach believes that I can get this done. And that helps me to get to that next level. Okay. Perfect example in a game, right? There's let's say a soccer game coming down to the last moment. All right. And let's all picture this. There's the last player taking a penalty kick on the soccer field, right? It's just the player and the goalie, all right, the keeper. All right, now we're watching this player come up. He's kicking the ball, and it misses, right? I want us to think as a coach, what would a tank drainer be as that player misses? Anyone can give an example of what would drain the athlete tank as he misses that or she misses that goal?
What the athlete hears, like groans and oh.
Okay, that would bring him down, absolutely. Not only what they would hear, but what about non-verbally? I kind of talked about in that first scenario, what was I doing that was non-verbal? Anyone want to give an example of that? That may be a tank drainer.
Just like
Maybe throwing.
Yeah, throwing the hands up in the air, like, oh, what are you thinking? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe pointing the finger at them and saying, oh, that was terrible. Come on, you got to make that shot. Unfortunately, we hear that all the time, right? The last second shot in a game, the last play in a volleyball game where the person spikes the ball out of bounds, right? Oh, you should have made that play, right? Those are examples of tank drainers. Now, real quick, same scenario. One athlete at the penalty kick going up for the goal and to win the game, right? Let's see what would you think as that athlete goes to miss that penalty kick right here. If I have the soccer ball here and they shoot and they miss it, how can we fill that athlete's tank? What are some of the things that we could say, maybe do to help fill that athlete's tank?
I think just help them move on. Say, you'll get the next one. It's all right. Shake it off or something like that, just to keep encouraging them.
Moving on to the next play, right? One thing that, again, Kelly, you gave an example where an athlete would get stuck, right, on something negative. We want them to move on to the next play, absolutely, and that can be done as soon as they're walking off the field. Really, maybe immediately we can give them a clap and say, that's okay, help your teammates. Anyone else want to give an example, maybe a nonverbal example of how we can build that emotional tank?
Hand clap.
Eye
contact, looking at the athlete, thumbs up, nodding.
Great example, making eye contact, right, with our athletes. I mean, I work with athletes as young as 6 and all the way up through high school, and making eye contact with an athlete is so important because that shows them that you're not afraid, no matter what that they did, to be on their side and to be on their team. I think eye contact is a great example there, Al. Well, what we know is that athletes with full tanks are a little more optimistic. They're going to deal with adversity better, right? Missing that goal at the end of a game, they're going to want to bounce back and get to that next game or maybe that next practice, right? With a full tank, they're going to be able to succeed in that, whatever it is. And they're going to be more coachable. Obviously, as a coach, we need to make sure that we are on their team and they're on our team. And so an athlete with a full emotional tank will absolutely feel more coachable, okay? Now, real quick, in the next example, okay, we talked about a tank, what fills the tank. We just did that in our example, right? Criticism, correction maybe in that moment as that athlete hits that PK or as they hit their next golf shot or throw that bowling ball down the bowling alley, right? Just the sarcasm, ignoring them, maybe not even looking at them, that's going to drain their tank. But what fills their tank, as we said, the non-verbals, like looking them in the eye, giving them a hand clap and a thumbs up, right? Or if we're being verbal and we want to give them truthful and specific praise, saying, hey, way to get out there and take that last PK. That's all right. You missed it. You're going to get the next one. All right, everyone, make sure the next one's going in. A great example that I have with my team, with youth basketball, I want to make sure that every athlete is confident shooting a shot. How I do this, I ask my athletes every time they miss a shot, what's the next shot doing? And guess what they know? Next shot's going in. Right? That's a shooter's mentality right there. I don't want one of my basketball players out there on the court not thinking their shot's not going in. it's got to be going in. So I say, what's the next shot doing? Going in. Then I'll usually say it louder. What's the next shot doing? Going in. And then I'll go to the team. I'll say, team, what's the next shot doing? And they'll all yell, going in. Because that's what we need. We need confident athletes that are going to go out and step on the field of competition and believe that their next play is going in, right? Or I should say is going to help the team win. Absolutely. So real quick, moving on. I want everyone to look at this slide and look at this question. What's one thing most coaches can do to be more effective? All right. Noodle it in your minds a little bit. I'm going to give you guys about 5 seconds to think, well, what can we do to be more effective? One thing in our book, and if we go ahead and turn to page 32 in our book, if you guys want to see it, it's a thing called the magic ratio. Okay. Now this magic ratio is going to be the number of positives to criticisms or corrections, right? How many times do we need to be positive in order to make sure that we are most effective as a coach when we at times need to correct or you know, not necessarily criticize, but correct our players? Anyone want to shout out a number that they think is the best ratio? If you haven't looked at your books, I'm assuming, but if you have, go ahead and be quiet. I know you know this, but anyone want to throw out a number on what that ratio might look like?
3 to 1.
Hey, that's pretty good. All right, Kelly, do you get to 3 to 1 positives to criticisms during your practices?
I don't know if I quite get there.
Okay, but that's all right.
I think I'm more of like 2. I think I'm more of like a 2 to 1 at least, or definitely 2 to 1.
Great start. Now I will say you're a little low with the 3 to 1. Anyone else want to guess? She was low at 3 to 1. Anyone else?
4 to 1.
4 to 1, not quite that magic ratio. 5 to 1. All right. We found that 5 to 1 is a magic ratio where things start to happen, right? Kids feel connected to us as coaches as well as teammates, okay? And what we see is that this helps athletes perform at a high level and feel that they can go out and have a positive influence on the outcome of a game, right? So what's the best thing what's one thing that a coach can do to be more effective? Make that ratio get as close to 5 to 1 as possible. And it doesn't take, it doesn't take every time that little Jimmy, he makes a mistake and you have to go up to him and say, well, you did this right, this right, this right, this right, this right, this right. And then there's this one thing, right? Because as we're going to learn, right, as Phil Jackson will explain to us here, it's hard. It's hard to get to that ratio and you have to do it over time, right? I'm going to go ahead and read this quote by Phil Jackson here. He says, about that time, Jim's book showed up. Now, Jim Thompson, if you guys don't know, again, author of the Double Go Coaching book here. Jim's book shows up. Positive coaching becomes an influence in my life. I mean, think about that. That just real quick, that 5 to 1 ratio influenced Phil Jackson, an 11-time NBA championship coach, right? And finally, of course, the rest we know is that the Bulls won 3 championships in a row. Well, I will say he also had success with a second team after that with the LA Lakers, and he was coaching superstar athletes. I mean, Scottie Pippen, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, right? This is a coach that's really at a high level. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a film here. I want you guys to watch and take in what Coach Jackson says here about increasing his plus-minus ratio. Play. All right. Yep. So we can see that a coach at his highest level totally believes in increasing his plus-minus ratio. Does anyone have an example, or does anyone feel that they get close to this magic number? Go ahead by a show of hands. Let me see if you guys get close to the 5 to 1. Well, let me ask you guys this, okay? And Al, if you don't mind, I'm going to use you as example. So go ahead, step on up here. Now, Al, I'm going to give you the juggling here, and blah, blah, blah. Let me grab this other ball. I'm going to give you the balls. Here we go. I want you to try and juggle. Now, Al, can you juggle?
Nope.
That's what I figured. Not a lot of people can juggle. So Al goes ahead and he tries to juggle. Okay. And I'm his juggling coach, and I'm going to model giving the plus minus ratio, getting it close to 1. So Al goes to juggle. Da, da, da. Hey, Al, don't worry, man. You tried really hard. I really appreciate you stepping up. Good job, giving him a pat on the back there. One thing that I think that you can help out would be is if you threw that third ball, you can't let that third ball sit in your hand. You got to throw it. So why don't we try doing it this way? And we're going to try, and as soon as you get to throwing that third ball, just drop it. Just drop it when we'll move on to the next step, okay? End of scenario. What were some positives, right? I said he's got to get rid of that third ball. What were some of the positive things that I did there? Now, I know, unfortunately, it's not going to work in this example, but some of the things that I did, I looked Al directly in the eye. That's one. I went up to Al, I gave him a pat on the back, and I said, hey, way to try, right? Way to give your best effort, okay? He stepped up, and he was actually willing to do this. That's 4 positive things that I did right there. Specifically, I told him he needs to try and just drop it. I gave him a different scenario, right, to try and accomplish this goal. I offered an alternative scenario. Pretty close to 5 right there. I got to 4. Unfortunately, I know I need to work on it and keep improving and getting up to that 5-to-1 ratio. But just looking him in the eye, giving him a pat on the back, those sorts of things are really going to help us improve our plus-minus ratio. Okay? Real quick, I want to give you guys an example of a scenario here. We have a team that, okay, we've all been a coach on those teams, except for maybe Ruben. I know you're a first-year coach, so you might have to experience this in this first time. But we have a team that's struggling, and they all need a lot of correction. All right, maybe it's a recreational team, maybe it's just this team is just starting the sport for the first time. Well, coach, what are we going to do, and how can we give them feedback without discouraging them? I want you guys to think about that real fast. Okay, really quick, you guys, as we start to wrap this up. Tools for giving effective feedback. Now, we all talked about some of the things that I did, right, to model how we can get to that 5-to-1 ratio. I think we all know that that's what we need to do, get to the 5-to-1 ratio, right? Here are some of the tools, right, that we can use to make sure that our athletes receive this feedback, okay? Avoiding non-teachable moments, right? This is a very big one. As coaches, we feel that correction needs to come at all times, right? But sometimes, if it's during the heat of competition, right, it might be better to, what we say, park that teachable moment, right, and save it for a next time, right? Maybe have your assistant coach write it down, and then after the game, you can talk to that person, and that leads right into our second bullet point: criticizing in private. Right now, we all know that I think we've all had times where if a coach just absolutely berates us, or as some of my teammates would say back in college, dress down us in front of the team, all right, we're going to close off. We're not going to feel that that coach is on our team, right? What we just talked about, feeling connected to our teammates and coaches. If he just absolutely just yells at us in front of the rest of the team, it's not going to be received. It's not going to be received in a positive manner, right? But criticizing in private kind of opens up the door where they're not being put on display in front of the rest of the team. I use this tool a lot, especially with my younger kids. All right, with my middle school kids especially, getting them in a one-on-one situation where I can try and up my ratio, right, during that one-on-one moment, up my magic ratio, and then criticize them in private. That keeps them on my team, right? Another tool to use: ask permission. How many of you guys have ever had an athlete in a practice setting, we'll say, they just make a really just terrible mistake, and it's something that you've been working on all season, but they just don't seem to get it? How many of you guys have been there? Why don't we go ahead and raise our hands? Yep. Yep. It happens, right? Try next time you want to help correct that athlete and really your whole team, try asking for permission. Simple way to do this. Hey, Zach, you know, there's one thing that you did back there, and do you know what it was? The athlete is probably going to say yes, because you've been harping on this the rest of the whole year, right? The athlete's probably going to say, yeah, I know what I did wrong. You say, hey, that's okay. Do you mind if I use that example with the rest of the team later today, later in the practice, maybe at the end of the practice? I have never once had an athlete say no. I really haven't. And I've used that, and actually Zach I shouldn't use a real example. Zach is on my team. I'll make sure to use a different name, maybe little Sally. But especially with Zach, he's a sixth grader playing up on a seventh grade team, and I get him on my team every time. I get him on my side when it comes to showing that example for the rest of the team. The last thing, using if-then statements, that even after you ask permission from that athlete and you get permission, you can talk to the rest of your teammates using an if-then statement. Now, I think perfect example. Now, I'm gonna use a golf example here. If you take your swing back slower on the backswing, you will have more control. Then you will have more control over the club as it comes back down, right? If you set your feet wider and bend your knees lower, then you will be more able to move laterally side to side, which in all other team sports we know is very important. Okay, using the if-then statement rather than saying, you just need to get low now. I mean, notice the difference even in my tone, and I didn't really mean it, but when you say you need to do this now, the athlete won't really receive that feedback as well as saying, if you can do this, then this will happen. All right. And finally, the criticism sandwich, a really easy way to help boost that plus-minus ratio. All right. And Phil Jackson alludes to that in his video. He said how he talked to his athletes. Hey, you're doing this really well. You're working really hard, but we need you to learn this. Now, he mentions that correction is like a bomb, right? We heard that. All that athlete is going to remember is what he did wrong. But if you've done the simple steps to increase that plus-minus ratio, that but becomes a lot less of a very negative thing, and that just becomes, oh, hey, coach just needs me to work on this. You know, I'm going to move forward there. So really, right here, 5 invaluable tools that you can do to help fill that emotional tank for the player. And again, if you need to read further on this, again, go back to your book, page 40. Going to be an invaluable tool for you there. Okay. Real quick to move forward here, we want to that there are even more ways to do this to make sure that everyone's emotional tank is filled. Okay. A couple of the more things that you can use in the book. All right. The buddy system, getting your team on board. Okay. How many have a team that you feel are all best friends on your team? Well, use that, right? Okay. Kelly's shaking her head. Kelly's shaking her head. You have a team that might not be so buddy-buddy with each other. That's okay. We can still build that with our teams through a couple of different ways, right? I think a perfect example for me is I like to have my athletes see each other as they perform. So we'll do a drill together as a group. I'll stop. And then the rest, I'll have the team go individually to show that drill. And then I'll ask the team to say, hey, give me 3 things that you really liked about that person's performance. Okay? And I'll always get hands up. Hey, I really liked how hard he went. I really liked that he went game speed. I really liked the fact that he went out there and stepped onto the floor, right? And then that automatically increases the ratio where you can come in as a coach and say, absolutely. That worked out, and all of your teammates gave you that praise. My one thing that I would want you to improve upon is maybe working faster, right? The buddy system right there helps increase that plus-minus ratio. Positive charting, absolutely. Anytime that we have an athlete going out and performing their best, we can have maybe a parent or someone keeping track of our effort goals, right? As a team, you got to have effort goals, all right? Or else the kids will never get on the floor and dive after that loose ball, or they'll never want to run after that ball on the soccer pitch, right? Finally, the winner circle, making sure that we after a game, right? If there's one athlete maybe that wasn't on your team, we can wasn't on your team, I should say. One athlete on your team that maybe wasn't so engaged at that week of practice, all right, but somehow came to the game and they did something really well. Why don't you go ahead and call out whatever that athlete did well? Maybe little Johnny hustled off the floor when was being substituted. All right, that's a great culture culture stat that we can say would help increase the plus-minus ratio, and that's just one kid. And then the rest of the team sees that, and they see that as a coach, you're trying to make sure that everyone gets specific praise for one thing that they did. Okay, just a great example. Again, you can reference the Double Goal Coaching book. And again, you guys can beat that book up and highlight and earmark everything that you need on that page, okay? We're going to go ahead and move forward now. Quick praise effort. Excuse me. And we're going to have Carol Dweck here talking about praising effort over talent. Carol Dweck is a psychologist who currently she's at Stanford. She's been all over the place, and she's going to go ahead and tell you that that coaches who value effort over talent will help their teams improve. So let's go ahead and watch that video. So watch the video.
All right.
Play.
That's actually the end of E-Tank.
Yeah, we're just oh.
Yeah, that's where E-Tank ends, right there.
Uh-oh. Did I mute you guys?
We see you. We're here.
I see you, Kelly. Are you there?
We're here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe he hit his volume.
Sorry, I'm unable to hear you guys right now. So you were giving me a sign. I apologize. I just want to wrap up creating the meaningful athlete experience here. This will be my last slide here. How do we get athletes to believe that they can get better? 3 bullet points there really will help encourage that athletes can get better. You can tell them that you value the effort more than the talent. You can become a noticer, right? We want to make sure that we give specific praise to any efforts that they throw out there on the court, just like running after the loose ball or maybe diving on the floor to get it. And then we want to bring that full circle and say that you diving onto the floor or hustling after that loose ball gave us an extra possession in the game. That's attributing their effort to the success of the team, right? And making sure that that it really pays off for us in the long run. And more effort plays that are made as a team, it's going to help us as a team. So finally, that's going to end the first principle, the filling the emotional tank. Would love to hear you guys' feedback on that. Unfortunately, I can't hear you guys. So maybe if one of you guys, Kelly, would you mind talking just to make sure that?
No, it's fine.
Okay, maybe I brought my computer volume. Thank you.
Check that out and see.
Close this here.
Can you hear any of us, Matt?
You know, I might try and jump off and restart here. So is that okay if I?
Yeah.
Would I lose you all if I tried to do that? Let me try and do that here.
Just log out and log back on again. He can't hear me. I love talking to people when they can't hear me. Wow, he was on a roll.
Kelly, I have to run, so I just put in the message here some comments, some feedback for Matt. I know you guys will add plenty more, but
oh, in the chat, did you?
Yeah, in the chat. Do you see my message there to Matt?
There we go.
I see it. Can you hear us, Matt?
Yeah, I got you guys back. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
But we're here. Yeah.
No problem. Yes, thank you. Ruben said he had to go, so he gave you some quick comments. I don't know if you can read the chat, but he wrote down, he said, I have to go, enjoyed it a lot, love your personality and style. Matt, I love your ability to be present with us and incorporate our comments.
Okay, great.
So that was from Ruben. Yeah, I agree with that.
Ruben.
Excellent. Excellent.
So I appreciate it. Hopefully you
Yeah.
guys.
So take a breath first.
Yeah, I know. That was a big breath.
Take a breath. That was a lot. That's a lot to do in one, sitting in front of a video screen. I do that a lot, and it's a long hour. So you did a lot. Take a deep breath.
Well, I will. Thank you so much. It was a lot to cover. I feel pretty confident that I can improve on it. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's great. How did you feel going through it all?
No, I felt like I knew the material. I think I need to work on making it my own a little bit more. I do feel comfortable. Like that's one of the things that I feel most comfortable with. If someone gives me a comment and feedback, I feel that I can continue that conversation with them and make sure to see how we can relate it to the material that we're going over. Again, I just think I need to. Well, a couple of the things, and it'll be different in a live workshop, but I can make sure I have those points where I get the group activities together, and then really just making it my own and getting stories more outside of basketball is what I think I need to work on, so that everyone can relate, no matter where I go for a workshop.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think it's really great because we got to see you do from the beginning of the workshop through the first principle. And, a lot of times these demos that I do are twofold. One, I want to make sure that you are 100% comfortable with the content and the material. And so that's why the first demo is always great because, sometimes there's little red flags when people call us the Positive Coaching Association or, things like that you just might, I feel like sometimes there's nails down the chalkboard when I'm like, oh, we didn't quite say that right. And I had no red flags. So that makes me feel like the content, it's solid, you're passionate about it. The next part of it, when we did the second demo, which you did all together, which is fine, is having you back away from the content a little bit and bring out the coaches more. And I think, you doing it all in one shot, this was super, super content heavy, which was great, which makes me feel super confident. And I'm sure Al and Ben too, that your stuff and you seem to be so comfortable with it, which is great. And that's where sometimes it's harder. Once you know everything, it's harder to pick and choose what you are going to share and what you are going to tell. And I have loads of comments. I'm going to let Al or Ben Ben, thanks for jumping in.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here the whole time, but it was really great to see you in action.
You missed my juggling, man. The juggling was there. I was.
I saw you holding tennis balls. Like, oh, I want to see the juggling.
I just had to pick something that maybe would be a little bit more visual that we could do together. But hey, Al, I didn't. I
love it. I'm glad you didn't ask me because I actually can juggle. Thank you very much.
No, wait, you can?
I can. Yes,
So,
my lacrosse coach made us all learn to juggle.
Maybe you can teach me some. I'm going to practice actually.
Yeah, there you go.
But Al, I didn't use.
I love it. I think it's a great activity.
Yeah, Al was funny.
Al,
I know one of the red flags that when I went over the intro with Al 2 weeks ago now, I guess, was that I used the term peace and love, and I tried not to use that in this one. So,
what's wrong with peace and love?
Well, it's just not in the Double Go coaching book, so I don't think I can. I should use that, but anyway.
Oh, I'm all for peace and love. All right. So Al, now that you saw Matt before, and now you got to see him today, I'd love to hear some improvements, highlights, comments, or suggestions from you.
Wonderful improvement. He did really well the first time through when we practiced, but Matt, obviously you spent a lot of time working on it and getting the content down. It was the introduction especially was so much smoother. Really a great job on that.
Yeah, I really worked on that last part. So thank you.
Yeah, it was fantastic. E-Tank for the first time through, I thought was really good. It's got to be content driven for now, and then you can start modifying it and putting your personality into it, putting your own stories into it. It's just going to get better. I liked how you handled Kelly and Ruben both threw you a couple of curveballs in the middle of this. And look at Kelly's smile; she just loves that. Yeah.
I got to keep my day fun too.
You handled those flawlessly. It was absolutely seamless how you handled it. You made her feel like the comment was okay, but also gave her some information on how you could better do that. And same with Ruben about the first time coach. Got him to think about it a little bit more. Just take a couple of principles and write them down in your book. I think you drove the coaches to the book enough. That was really great.
Kelly,
I have
I
a
stole that one from you and part of your presentations, having them write that down in the book. I think that's brilliant. So I kind of, if you don't mind, I pilfer from you.
Oh, steal it all. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I think from what
Rip
I'd like
off and
to see a
duplicate.
little less of would be you use the term real quick.
Okay.
In between slides when you're kind of hurrying or you're ready to transition. And I think that's going to go away when you get more confidence and you do it more often. I'm not worried about that at all. And then maybe a little bit, we'll work a little bit on the plus minus things that you can do. It's the last slide in the e-tank. Just getting those a little bit more descriptive.
Okay.
From the book standpoint, maybe something you've done as a coach with people instead of just reading them off. But that's, like I say, this was fantastic. You did really great. A lot of improvement, man. Thank
you, Al. I definitely felt a lot more confident, especially going through that intro. That I think, going over it with you that first time really helped me to solidify that intro. So I'm sure by the next time I do emotional tank in front of some people, I'm sure I'll only be that much more confident in it, and then I'll use that to continue to build on the other 3 principles as well. So,
Absolutely. Just real quick, why you said that when that triggered something, I did notice that right away that you said real quick a lot, and it could be a nervous thing, but it's also, I think sometimes you've got a fast pace, and I do too. And when you have a fast pace, sometimes we say like, okay, real quick, because we want to make the coaches or the audience think that, okay, we're not wasting your time here. We're going to keep moving. So, but just be careful, because you don't want them to think that what you're talking about isn't important enough to spend some time to slow it down. So even when you say like, okay, we're almost done here, or one more sec, I hear a lot of trainers often say, okay, like we're almost finished, hang in there, we've got one more minute, And I think sometimes it devalues what we're doing by thinking that they want us to go through it quicker than we should. So, and that was actually pointed out to me years ago, because I mentioned that, or I said that like, okay, almost done, or hang in there, one more principle. And it's like, well, we shouldn't be apologizing to them for going through this material, because it's all really good stuff. So just when you said real quick. But yeah, that was something I stopped around 9 check marks when I said real quick. After 9 times, I stopped keeping count. But that was something that you'll be aware of now.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. That is specific praise that I can use to go back and make this improve. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ben, I'd love to hear what you have to say, and then I'll go through mine.
I have a couple of thoughts. That first, just what I was really impressed with, Matt, is just how well you know this material. I've seen a lot of trainers spend a lot more time on this stuff than you have had the luxury of spending, and they still just struggle to get out the terminology and saying the things. And you were going down each one of the examples, and we're able to, list tools and specific examples for each tool. That, I mean, even I get in situations where I'm like, what is the positive charting thing again? Like, I don't really, but it's just a lot. And the fact that you seem to have just a real ownership over that stuff. So I think that was really awesome. I was really excited. And I think you did give really good examples. And I love that you went back and referenced the book. We ask our trainers to do that so often. And I think in the 15 minutes I was able to join, you did that twice. So I just think that was really good. I thought your presence, your physical, and I think that's important, because your hands and even in your sitting, and I know you're confined, but I can only imagine you in a room that you're going to be moving and inviting people in and using your hands, and that's really good. That helps people to stay up and energetic and keeps the thing fresh. I think one thing that to keep in mind, so I've had to say this very few times to trainers, but with music, there's dynamics, right? And there's times where you want it to be up and loud because it gets your attention. But sometimes in music, you got to pause.
You want that pause, yeah, brilliant. Okay.
And you want to talk soft for a second, because you want to pull them in. Because what you're saying is really important.
Okay.
And then you need to get back because it's the, you know what I mean? And so I think your personality is this, like go and whatever.
Pretty
and
big.
I thought about it as like, okay, I've got this range and I'm up here a lot, but every once in a while I need to come down so that people can feel it. And it doesn't feel like, whoa, this is 100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The whole hour and a half, I think, could get exhausting for people.
Yeah.
And it's just another tool for you to like make something that you want to land really hard, really hit people.
That's thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
I know that I was actually something that I can remember we talked about, Al. We talked about last Friday, and so I'm definitely gonna take that to heart. And I think there's definitely room. And tell me if I'm wrong, you guys. There's probably room in each principle for at least one of those moments. Probably two, at least. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it has to do with connection.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
Oh, I just think it's about pacing, and then I know what you're going to say, Kel. I think it's about connection with the audience, right? So, like, if you feel like something's landing, really give it the time it needs to hit with people. And I mean, the time I was on for 15 minutes, I only heard you talk for 15 minutes. So I never heard you. You asked some rhetorical questions to us.
Okay.
I never heard Kelly chime in or Al chime in. I know it's a demo, so it's hard. But if you ask people like, so think about this for a second, and you waited for them to think, but then you never ask them for, oh, what do you think, Al, or what did you think, Kelly? And to draw, I mean, we need to hear the audience speaking a lot more than us as trainers. We want to hear from them because they're the we're the experts, but we want them to share their wealth of knowledge. So it's just finding that give and take, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kelly,
I agree. That's excellent. That was probably, Ben, the best bit of advice I was ever given years ago, because I'm a super, I mean, Al and Ben have seen me, like I'm a super high energy person too. And I had someone actually leave a workshop one time and say, I'm exhausted just watching you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, is that a good thing? Like, that doesn't really sound like a good thing when they're exhausted. So, you know, and I was always like, oh, high energy is great. High energy is great. This is all fun. This is all great. But then when you learn, when you have high energy as your personality and your emotion and you're really out there, it's such a great tool to be able to bring it down and whisper.
Oh, yeah.
And when you get a whole group of coaches that are like, whoa, she's serious. You know, sometimes I'll do it if I'm talking about, you know what a coach did for me? A coach made me feel worthless. And, you know, you're like, talk about these coaches. And then when you tell a story like that and you really get your emotional level and your voice and you're slow, you get everyone like, and it's really, it is. And it's really powerful. And it's more impactful, I think, sometimes than the energy. And then as Ben said, then you ramp it back up again. And it's not a matter of placing it strategically. It's a matter of thinking about, where do you want these coaches to really feel something? Where do you want them to connect? Where do you want them? You know, I've even said, think about a player that you know has so much potential, but they're just not using it. Gosh, that's so frustrating. You know, just saying a sentence like that in a lower, quieter tone of voice gets the coaches to go, yeah, that is tough. And I do have in the notes as well, wait time is really important. When you ask a question, I know in your head you're ready, like, I got the answer. And if they don't answer it, I'm going to answer for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really just, and Ruben specifically, Ruben is excellent at that. I think sometimes Ruben waits too long because I'm sitting there like, come on, give me the answer. But he's really good at that and good at just waiting. And sometimes he'll rephrase it or does anybody need clarification?
Yeah.
You know, and it's really, but I think it's, you know, you learn from that as well, just to wait sometimes. I have lots of comments. I'm not going to give you every single one of them, but I do have them chronologically. So Matt, there, as Ben said, I see these all the time, and you are heads and tails above most people that are doing this for the first time.
Okay, thank you.
Content-wise, passion. My first impression of you is that you are coaching me, and that you are a positive coach, and that is huge because you're not Matt, who's pretending to tell us about how to be a positive coach. You actually are a positive coach. And I love that about you. And I could just feel that. And in a room full of live coaches, I'm even more excited because I can just tell you're going to be like all into this. And that's awesome. I think your smile, your energy, your movement, your pace, and the expressiveness is something that you can't teach people necessarily. And you've already got that. So you've got the package there.
Okay.
Plus the content knowledge, which is huge. So I think, having those two things already, you're only going to improve as you go. And the reason that we do these demos is so that you can practice.
Absolutely.
It's really so that you can get the words and the questioning and realize, so this is for me as well to see and evaluate how you do, but more often it's for you to just practice getting it out with a little bit of pressure, having us watching you.
Yeah.
I think that, go ahead.
So if you don't want to share them now, you can certainly email me them, and I would love to hear them. Even if they're not up to the magic ratio, please let me know. I want them.
Oh no. Let me just give you a couple now, and then I can add it up. I can add it too, because and I'm not going to repeat what Ben and Al already said.
Okay.
But some of the things that a lot of it's just suggestions. Unless you have to go. If you have to go, I can email them to you.
I'm good.
You want time?
Okay.
Okay.
What do we got?
So a lot of these, sometimes I just give as suggestions. Like if you do something, I want to see more. So I have a couple comments like that. Like, for example, right off the bat, you said about your boss analogy, about did anybody ever have a boss that made you feel negative? I love that because you're connecting it to their real life. That's perfect. I would ask them, how did that boss make them feel? Just go one step further, because the analogy you're trying to do is how we as coaches that are negative make the players feel. Mm-hmm. So you asked, I had a negative coach, but you didn't ask, how did that boss make you feel? Okay. So I would hit that a little bit further right away. When I gave you that answer about negativity, every time I do a workshop and I ask, so are you guys on board? Positivity works, negativity distracts. What do you think? You always get someone in the crowd that will say, I think negativity works. So that's why I threw that out at you, just to see how you'd handle it. And I agree with Al. I think you handled it beautifully because you didn't challenge me back. You weren't like, oh, no, well, that's not what the research says.
Get out of here. Yeah.
You said, oh, look at that. Stops you in your tracks. That's exactly what it does. I mean, I thought that was great. Fantastic. The Dev Zone plug, you plugged it really well, but I think you're a little bit off about what it is. So you said something about like if you have an issue after practice, you can put it on there and thousands of coaches can see it. That's actually something a little bit different. We have an Ask PCA blog. It's not on the slide, but that's where you can write in a question and the coaches can get back to you. The Dev Zone is just resources. So it is a searchable database of information if you have that problem after practice, if you're making cuts, if you have a problem parent, if you have a student that's picking on, or an athlete that's picking on other players, whatever it is, that's the Dev Zone. But I think what you were talking about was the Ask PCA.
I merged them. Yeah, I merged them together.
Yeah, no worries. So. Just want to clear that up. Let's see. Oh, the other thing, when you talk about a great sports experience, one of the things I found to be more effective in workshops, when you're talking about, okay, let's talk about what makes a great sports experience. All right, thanks, Ben. A lot of times that's an abstract concept. Like all of these coaches sitting in the room are going, well, this is what I'd like this sports experience to be. And what I like to do is make it concrete for coaches, saying, think back to a positive sports experience you had. What's the best team you were ever on? What's one of the greatest experiences you ever had on a team? What were the ingredients in there?
Yes.
Concrete. Okay. Not the coaches thinking about, well, you know what a great sports experience would be for me this season if I didn't have Jimmy Jones on my team and his parent buffing down my back. I want it to be them to think about their own experience and what made it great for them.
Okay. Yeah.
So just a suggestion.
No, love that one. Done more times in the different workshops that I've seen, so I know that's impactful. So okay, thank you.
Yep. Writing is awesome. I love using different intelligences. So asking verbal answers, writing them down, sharing with a partner. I think you did sprinkle that up. I agree with Ben. I would like to see more of the audience answering open-ended questions, not just yes or no or raise your hand if. Just whatever question you're going to ask, just start it with how or why, rather than do you or did you or have you. And if you're going to do some questions of raise your hand, sometimes a lot of coaches don't like to raise their hand over and over again. Uh-huh. So Joe Tarasi, one of our lead trainers, he always does clap to vote. If you agree with this, clap twice. So he'll say a statement, and then the whole room is just clap twice, or thumbs up, thumbs down, stand up, sit down. Just a way to get the whole group involved without just saying, raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand, yes or no.
Yep.
Just some suggestions. I think the personal stories were excellent. I have a suggestion on moving them into a little different place. Okay. So the one story that you talked about, what did you say? Oh, no, the story that you said about what's your next shot going to do? Mm-hmm. What's your next shot going to do? I would save that story and use that when you go over the scenario, because the scenario was you have a team that's really struggling and they're discouraged. How do you as a coach help them? That's where I would put that story, because that's a great tool to be able to say, this is what I do for my team. My team's struggling. They're not making shots. Okay. So I would just place that story a little differently. I think that would be really effective right there.
Okay.
And this is just for my own use because I want to know what you would do with it. Probably for my own stealing use as well. What are you thinking in your mind in a room of how to use the juggling activity? Would you have done it like you did with you juggling? Because at first you said get with a partner.
No, yeah.
And then you were like, oh, wait, let me do it. So what were you thinking through it?
Yeah, no, what I would think is I would probably ask for a volunteer. I'd ask for a volunteer to step up, and I'd say, hey, no pressure type of thing, and then I'd bring out the 3 tennis balls. You're going to juggle for us type of thing. So kind of make it impactful. And I've used that before in a coaching clinic as well, and the coach is going to kick out of it, and I think it helps really right at the beginning. So normally I would ask for a volunteer, and I would not pair them up in pairs. I know I said that, but I was a little bit nervous there to start. So
no, it's okay. I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, is he going to bring tennis balls for everybody? Like I was just curious on what your thought process.
I do have a ton of them, but no, I might ask like 1 or 2, maybe even up to 3 people to come up there and try and do that, just so maybe I get a juggler in one of them, and then maybe I get 2 guys or 2 people that don't know how to juggle. So that's what I'm thinking for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I love it. I love it. And let me give you an extra little factoid here that I think is awesome. So Dr. Mary Fry is also one of our National Advisory Board members. She works a lot with caring climate. She's a professor at University of Kansas. And she has studied negativity versus positivity. And we actually have 2 people in the course right now that are her grad students. And she uses juggling. And she set up the experiment to be, she had a room of people that were learning to juggle. And she had, monitors walking around being very negative to them. And she actually swabbed their cheek and did a cortisol level test. They learned to juggle during juggling and after juggling. And tested the amount of cortisol, which is the fight or flight, the stress hormone, and found that the people that were learning to juggle in a room with extremely negative, critical coaches, their cortisol level was double. And the other room was just, oh, come on, you could do it, keep trying, and laughing in a real light atmosphere. Their cortisol level, not only did it not go up, it actually went down. So just a little fact to plug in there. It was actually scientifically, the biophysics of your body actually changed using juggling with positivity and negativity. So when you said juggling, I'm like, oh, this is a good place to put that in. Little nugget.
Cool. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the ways too, this is another thing. You like to talk, which is great because you know your stuff. Some ways to get the talking to be a little bit less talking and a little bit more coaching is just ask. Asking instead of telling. So when you get to the slide that says, even the slide that's the draining tanks versus filling tanks, what drains the tank and what fills the tank, when I put up that slide, sometimes I say, okay, here are all the things, what drains the tank? And you've seen the demos. I do examples of shooting and having people yell at me and whatever. But even if you just put the list up there, draining the tank is easiest because we are emotional people and our players are not doing what we want them to do. So criticism, correction, sarcasm, ignoring nonverbals, that is so easy to do. If you use it as instead of draining, now let's try to fit, like they're actually in a line. So criticism and correction, instead of that, try truthful and specific praise and have them practice it. So instead of saying, you really want to criticize and correct, instead, what's an example of how you could give somebody truthful, specific praise? Turn to somebody next to you and give them an example in your sport. For sarcasm, why are we sarcastic? That's always a good question to throw out there because 99% of coaches are very sarcastic. Why? Just asking through it as why or how rather than I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Sometimes can help.
A little more
instead of
coaches.
Instead of being sarcastic, like, man, you throw like my grandmother. How could you appreciate what they did? Expressing appreciation goes along with that. Yep. Wow, you know what? I really like the way you got your arm back on that throw, but your follow through needs to be a lot harder or something. Just let them figure out how to use the other alternative. Just makes it a little bit more interesting. The one that I meant the most. Oh, and then even with the tools, the E-Tank toolkit that has avoid non-teachable moments, criticize in private, ask permission, use if-then statements, they're pretty self-explanatory. So I'm glad that you know them because if you get a room of coaches that don't feel like talking, it's good that you know them.
Yeah.
But ask them, what would this mean? Receivable feedback. Well, we have coaches have a lot of feedback, but if it's not being received, it's not helpful. So what I want you to think about right now, avoiding non-teachable just ask them. When is that? Criticizing in private, why is that important? Asking for, who do you want to ask permission to? How's that helpful? Have them practice an if-then statement. Have them practice a criticism sandwich. So just things to get the group engaged a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is
scattered all over this to make sure the group is engaged, and that's where I really fine tune, and maybe need to do it in front of my dog here a little bit more to make sure that
dogs are great. Dogs are great audiences. Yeah, I just put ask more open-ended questions. And if you, I mean, you don't have to go back and watch this for an hour, but if you just watch a lot of the questions you were asking are yes or no, or do you think, or yes, where I didn't really have to get involved. If you get me thinking, challenge me.
Okay.
If somebody answers a yes or no question, say why.
That was actually
how would you do that?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if I am able to see this, if you can send me this, or will it be available somewhere that I can?
No. Yep, I recorded it for you. Yeah.
Well, that's a blessing.
So that's most of the stuff. And I love too, like when you said, you were talking about the, what did you say? When a coach said, you need to do this, and like you changed your tone of voice, like I could hear a coach saying that to me. So I think anytime you use those like realistic, like you are the coach, have you ever had a coach say this to you, and just your whole face and everything, I was like, that's what we're talking about, changing your pace, changing your voice, changing your expression, because that'll make people like wake up. Okay. So I thought that was great. So that's pretty much all that I had. I think everybody hit most of them. Just do what you're doing, keep practicing, and look for the opportunities to bring us in a little bit more, but have the information in your back pocket to add on to it. Or if somebody answers a question and it's not quite where we're going, you might need to tweak it a little bit. But it's always more fun if you get the coaches to answer first. So Matt, I'm thrilled. I think you did a great job, and I'm excited to see you. For the next one. For the last one, it's just your final. So again, I was going to talk with Al and see when or if we can get that scheduled to do that live. I know Jeff's going through it. Sounds like you know Jeff Peralt.
Yeah, no, good guy. Well, worked with him the other Friday, I guess last Friday, and then and also I'm going to be hopefully bouncing more ideas off him too, because we're both basketball coaches, so we know a lot of the circles. So
yeah. So are you going to be doing PCA workshops for the whole Portland area, or just specifically for the Trailblazers?
Well, certainly through the Trailblazers. The plan is that I can be kind of the main PCA trainer for them, and I can train all the other coaches that we have to come up on staff. If again, this hasn't been absolutely solidified in stone yet, but I think the idea is that I can kind of be the main resource for Rip City Academy for Positive Coaching Alliance. Basically, Rip City Academy is that's our youth basketball initiative, right? Okay. We partner with different organizations as well.